First up is Amrum. Amrum is directed by Fatih Akin, A-K-I-N. Fatih Akin. This is taking place in Germany right at the end of World War II. It stars a bunch of people, but the main character you're following is a kid named Nanning, played by Jasper Billerbeck. And this is on the island of Amrum, which I've never even heard of. It's a very small island in northwest Germany. But by all accounts, if you just looked at how this island looks, you would say, oh, this is some little Scandinavian island with fishing villages, very small like communities that they make their living off of just going out and fishing and living in small houses. And essentially that's what the area looks like, what the little community looks like. The only difference is they have, since they're in Germany and it's at the end of World War II, they have swastikas flying outside of their houses along with the whale bones and things like that. And Amrum stars, the main character in Amrum is Nanning, like I said, Nanning, this little boy. He's probably 10, 11, maybe 12. And at the beginning of this movie, he is hanging out with his friend. They are like digging up, I don't know, like potatoes or something, helping local farmers. You find out that very quickly Nanning is part of the Nazi youth. He's a true believer. He thinks that the Nazis are great. They're the government he's running. He knows they're at war with the British and that they're fighting the good fight. That's his world. That's probably been his whole world. He's not that old. He's been around mostly just when it has been the thing. Plus he lives on a small little island, so he's pretty isolated. And the woman that they are helping dig the fields up happens to just mention offhand something like, well, the war is coming to an end. The war is almost over, something like that. And at dinner that night, Nanning mentions that just offhandedly, and his mother gets very upset. His very traditionally nice-looking mother gets very upset and immediately starts grilling Nanning about who said this, because to say that the war is coming to an end essentially is like a crime against the greatness of the Nazis, even though by all factual accounts and by any evidence at that point you would know that the war is about to end. To say so is treasonous and could be very dangerous to the woman who has said this. And Nanning wasn't trying to get anyone in trouble. He was just talking about what happened that day. Well, as you might guess, we get to see the mom's true colors. And within a few minutes of this movie, the war is not only close to an end, but Hitler has died. He has killed himself in his bunker. And Nanning's mom does not take it well. In fact, she's just had a brand new baby, and she goes into depression. You could say it was like a postpartum depression if you didn't know any better, but I think her depression really is mostly based around the fact that they've lost the war, the Nazis have failed, and Hitler is dead, and she won't eat. And the rest of the movie just becomes almost like a slice of life of this little kid Nanning, trying to do something nice for his mom. She won't eat. In fact, she says at one point, the only thing I'll eat is white bread and honey and butter. Probably pretty symbolic since with her political leanings that she doesn't want rye. She only wants white bread with honey and butter, which of course, a lot of the supplies are really hard to come by on this tiny little island at the end of World War II because things are very scarce. Things haven't been going well probably, and supplies aren't very readily available to the average person, even though you can tell that like Nanning's family looks like they're pretty well off as they are members of the Nazi party, very obviously. Their house seems to be nicer than a lot of other people there. They have, like I said, they have the flag, the swastika flying out front. And as the movie progresses, the interesting thing about this one is you get to see through the eyes of Nanning how his world changes because his perception of his own reality and his own place in the world changes as he discovers that, well, maybe he's not on the good side. Maybe his parents are the bad guys. His dad's off to war, by the way. You don't see his dad in the whole movie. They talk about him, but you never see him. This plays out in a way like a lot of movies similar to this. Hope and Glory. We had Blitz a couple of years ago. These kind of movies where you see the world of war, especially World War II in those two particular movies. I guess Come and See even is somewhat of a movie like that, where you see the war through the eyes of a child. But in those movies where you're seeing kind of the horrors of war and survival of a child and the ability of a child to find kind of joy in the midst of these terrible occurrences, here it's different because here it's all about seeing a world that a child thought was just a perfectly good, normal, friendly, safe, happy world, and getting to slowly discover through the people around him that it is not that at all, and that there is a darkness out there that he has been by proxy part of. It's like finding out you are part of the bad people, which is very interesting how it plays out. And most of it plays out as he goes on a quest. So you meet a lot of these different people in this town because he's on a quest to get the ingredients and to get the white bread, honey, and butter for his mom. And because all those things are hard to get, he has to keep going from one person to another. Like he has to go to the baker, and the baker says, well, I need this and this to make the bread, and I don't have these things. So the kid has to go to someone else to find out how to get that item, then go to this place to get an ingredient. And as he goes on this, it becomes like a little mini adventure around the island, meeting up with people he knows in the community and that know him, and all of a sudden slowly getting to see that world through the eyes of these other people as they all know that the war is essentially ended, and how they all of a sudden maybe are treating him a little different. Maybe he's always been treated as this golden child because, unbeknownst to him, there was always a world of threat behind his presence. And now that doesn't exist anymore. He's just a little kid. In fact, he might be a little kid that represents something terrible to them. So in that essence, I think it's a really interesting movie, a really cool, like I said, character study and a kind of a character discovery movie. I really like this movie. I think it's really interesting. It's a pretty quiet movie overall. So once again, like I said, it kind of has a very simple and basic kind of plot. And the plot is really just there, like I said, to drive these character moments between him and other people and discovering kind of what the world is about him. Another thing I think this movie does really well is it really, I guess it kind of paints the period in very small details, both of the living in that kind of world at that time in general, and very specifically this kind of island fisherman life, because you'll see things like he has to take his bicycle and go across these mud flats when the water is low, and like, what does that look like, and why does he have to do it to get to this one person's house, and what effect that might have if he's not very fast. Little things like that, but it's really well done. I'm gonna go 4 stars for Amrum. Sometimes we talk about, we go through spoilers and everything. I don't think there's really much of a spoiler here. I mean, really the main, if there's anything to spoil, it's like, how does his quest play out, and how does he discover what he discovers, and what does that mean to him? But it's really more quiet moments for him and quiet discoveries as he goes along. There is one key moment where he's finally getting and achieving his goal of getting this white bread and everything for his mom, and how that kind of plays out. But even then, it's purposefully anticlimactic to make a point. So yeah, this is one of those movies I don't think it's going to be easy to get right now, but when it comes to a streamer, this is the kind of movie that would probably come to like Criterion, or it might come to Hulu. Hulu gets a lot of these indie movies when they get released to streamers. And when it does, it's really worth checking out. That is Amrum. 4 stars for me.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews